Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Fil-Am Creative Podcast, Voices.
Howdy, howdy.
Oh, you didn't do it.
Oh, sorry. Voices.
I'm your host, Walter Talents, and here is the lovely Arlyn the Filipina. She is going to be my co-host. It's been a while since I've seen you, right? How you been since last time?
It's been good. Just keeping busy, working on different projects, and yeah, it's exciting. I heard today we got a budget approved, so it's always good when you have a budget.
It makes your craft services a lot better.
Yes, it does. Because you don't want me cooking.
I found out recently that you used to dance, right?
I have been known to dance here and there, yes.
Tell us about it.
I mean, that's kind of like back in college and stuff. And so in Texas, we have this thing called Good Phil, which I don't know if it's considered, or if it's called friendship game. I don't know what it's called out here in the West Coast or like California schools.
We have friendship games and we have sports fest.
Oh, okay. So I guess Good Phil is kind of a combination of like sports, learning about culture, Filipino culture, and then lots of dance. And when I say dance, we're talking about like, we call that modern dance and spirit dance. And then you have to do like a cultural, like, tinikling or like subli or something like that, right? And so, the modern dance, I guess, is more of like hip hop style. And so it's funny because shout out to So Real, the original So Real.
I remember them.
Because they were my friends from Houston, Texas, representing University of Houston, and then their younger siblings ended up on the TV show America's Best Dance Crew. And so, but we were like already grown by then.
I remember watching that, and we were like, I'm from California, and we were like, Texas.
You know what I'm saying? You see, the underdog. I've lived in the Filipino places, and like look at them now. I mean, they Surreal Crew, who was on America's Best Dance Crew, they ended up getting second place on the second season. Yeah. And I mean, they're phenomenal, and so they're still doing things that are big. Drake made a shout out to them. Yeah, and
I really do love it. Like when I used to go to friendship games, and then like the Texas schools would come, and even the East Coast schools would come.
I have friends who came out to friendship games.
Sure. Yeah, they had to. It was like a
represent UT.
You had to make that trek, But it was just so funny because they were just so like happy. Like they're great at positive energy, and they were just like, wow, there's a lot of Filipinos.
That is some Southern courtesy for you. Yeah. It's different. Everybody's so Filipino out here, and
well, I think it was refreshing for them too, just to see so many Filipinos in one place.
I'm telling you, that's why we have places like Fil-Am Creative, and just groups that get everybody together, because everything that everybody's like hustling, trying to do out here in the entertainment industry, it's shown nationwide. And so when you're at these other places, like the East Coast, Virginia, and Texas, and wherever, Wyoming, right?
Yeah.
When you can see a Filipino American representing all of us on TV, that's a big deal.
And to let all of you guys know what Fil-Am Creative is about, Fil-Am Creative is basically a collection of creative people, filmmakers, artists, models, graphic designers, and whatnot, who've come together to create a safe space and and a place for all of us to be able to meet each other, work with each other, to create content, to make things happen, instead of just complaining about the lacking of diversity in entertainment or in the creative arts. We're here to bring our arts to the mainstream and to international markets to be able to share it with people, right? I mean,
right. Like not all Filipinos speak Tagalog and have thick accents, and there's places in America where, they just don't know, and so it's nice to show like all, kind of facets of the Filipino American side of the house here in the States. So.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Tagalog and accents, we have a really great guest today.
Yeah, we do.
And she is a wonderful woman who does these great accents and videos. And she's an actress, and she's an entertainer, a YouTuber.
That's right.
And she also she has I did not know she could sing, and she's a parody singer, and
Yes.
she's so talented and creative in doing that. And her name is Mary Grant, but she's also known as Mary Grant the Filipina.
That's right.
So without further ado, let's bring out Mary Grant and have her talk to us about her career in entertainment.
Ever wonder how to pitch your TV show or feature film to investors, producers, studios, or major networks? Fil-Am Creative invites you to their Perfect Your Pitch for TV and Film workshop with award-winning screenwriter and producer Donald Martin. This experiential workshop is designed to develop your pitching skills, observe the do's and don'ts of pitching, and how to get your foot in the door. Come this Friday, April 27th at 7:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. at the Academy of New Musical Theater, located at 5628 Vineland Avenue in North Hollywood, California. Tickets are on sale now at www.facpitchingworkshop.eventbrite.com. Get your tickets now.
And we're back. Welcome to Fil-Am Creative's podcast, Voices. It's a little inside joke we have.
Voices.
Charles, there you go. We have Mary Grant here, entertainer, parody singer, Mary the Filipina.
All of the above.
And welcome to our show. Welcome to our podcast. I'm glad you could make the time to come check us out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
And I'm sure that people are surprised that she's speaking without an accent.
That is very true. Now that you had to mention that, because a lot of people didn't know. But yes, I don't actually speak with an accent. And that accent is like actually three aunties combined. Because a lot of people ask me, where do I get it from? And it's a combination.
Now, yeah, how did that originate, or how did that come about, like the character?
So the character, because I do like the Animal Planet voiceover stuff. I do also some comedy skits with like using the Filipino mom. It just kind of came about. It's funny because my mom doesn't even talk like that. My mom's been in the South for like 15 years. So she kind of has like a Southern like Filipina draw. Like when she sings karaoke, it's like Reba McEntire or something. I'm not really sure.
It's like instead of you, it's you.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, whoa. But I don't know. It just kind of came from like three aunties. One's like super religious. The other one is like really, really traditional. And the other one is like really judgmental. So it's
I think
like,
everyone can identify with that.
And like the accent, it's more of, it's like you're singing, because the Filipinos that are proper, the way you go up sometimes and then you go down. So it's I like to make it very classy, and it's like you want to listen to more. That is the kind of accent that I imagine when I think of the Filipino accent.
It's like I'm seduced, but like not in like a seductive way. Does that make sense? Like it's like I can like
know what that
listen.
means.
I can like listen to you like talk with that accent for seriously like long periods. Like it's
very
it's almost like, okay, what is she gonna say next? What is she gonna say next? Yeah.
It's funny because I started off doing like voiceover, and I got a lot of bookings doing an English accent.
Oh, can we hear
Really?
some?
Well, absolutely. The British accent, it's kind of proper as well. But you just kind of roll your words around and you don't really think about it. And that's how it comes out. And I was really confused because I was being booked as a British artist, knowing there are British speaking people out there.
Yeah.
So I was really like, that's lovely. I'll take your money. Thank you. So I translate that into the Filipino accent, where it's very like classy as well.
That's pretty awesome.
Very classy.
Walter, we kind of like to hear your British accent.
Oh, dude. Since Homer's here, like people make fun of me, like because my British accent turns into like some weird Australian accent.
I was like,
hear it?
Homer's got the Australian, right?
Because Homer's I'm embarrassed now.
I can do an Australian. I'd love to get Homer's opinion on it as well.
We'll just watch Homer's face really quick to see if he approves or not.
Go, Walter.
Yeah.
For all of you out there, that Homer is one of our
is Aussie.
behind the scenes. That's why I'm doing an Aussie accent.
I'm sorry.
I thought it sounded like Japanese. Like, oh, we are going.
Oh, wait. Careful.
We're going deep. All right, we're going deep. All right, let's reel it back in a little bit.
I see some head shaking from our
Like,
Aussie over here.
I mean, it is kind of funny because I studied in London for a semester when I was in college, so I tried to do it, but it was terrible. It's just an embarrassment.
So for me, the Australian accent, it's kind of like a British accent, but you just roll your words around a little bit more like you're drunk or something. He's really shaking his head no.
For all you guys can't see,
All right,
Homer's
so,
our guy's
all
back.
right.
He's doing the behind the scenes photos, and he's originally from Australia, and he's just not approving of the
Really
accent.
disgusted
Wait.
by
I
us.
have a request. German accent. It's so hard.
I'm-
9?
I
That's all
can't
I
even.
got.
I can't even.
Achtung, Hosta. That's all I got. Aeroplane. No,
Yeah, like just like all my German friends, like I just revert back to like World War II movies, and they hate me for it because I'm just like,
Makes sense, yeah.
they're like, don't stereotype us. I'm like, I'm sorry, bro.
I know. You know, that is my birth country, guys. Deutschland.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Came to the States with a Filipino-German accent.
That's
Really?
interesting.
That's why I am a graduate of ESL, English as a second language.
Wow, that's cool. That's awesome.
Well, it's because no one could understand me, except
Mm-hmm.
Filipino Germans. Yeah, because I learned German with a Filipino accent.
Can you still speak German?
9.
With a Filipino accent.
9.
You know, I did. Okay, so I grew up. I'm a military brat, so I was
Woo,
born
woo.
in
Yeah.
Turkey. Yes, born in Turkey.
Oh, wow.
And then went to the Philippines, lived on Clark Air Force Base between the ages of like 3 and 6. Moved to the States when I was 6. We landed in Virginia, so that is like
What city in Virginia?
Right outside of Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay,
A town called
okay.
Ruckersville. There was not like KKK members there that I was aware of at that time. I know they have been there recently. This is taking a weird
well.
turn. All right. So,
know about
I grew up
recently,
in Virginia. That I was aware of, yeah. So I grew up in Virginia. And it's funny because I was like 6 years old. You know, growing up on a military base, everybody is mixed with something.
Yeah.
Everybody, yep.
You don't see colors when you're a kid. You know, I
Right.
didn't know that I was Filipino. I was just like, I'm a girl, you know?
Yeah.
So I go to school. My mom like drops me off at the bus. She tells me, you know, walk in, just start shouting your teacher's name. You know, you'll figure out where you're supposed to go. I'm like, all right, I'm Miss Independent. I can do this. I go to school, and I'm going to school for like 3 days here, right? The school calls my parents, and they say, you registered your daughter for school, but she hasn't come to class. Like, where is she? And then my mom's like, what are you doing? No, just kidding. No, she really was. And she was like telling my dad, like, no, I drop her off at the school bus. I pick her up. I don't know what happens. That maybe she goes to the bathroom all day when she's there. And I was like, no, I'm in class. So come to find out, my mom's like, when you get to school and they're calling, you need to tell the teacher you're there. So I'm like, all right, I got this. I go to school and they're calling the roster and I'm waiting for my name to be called. So my name is Mary Ellen Grant. Okay, that's my middle name, Mary Ellen, right? So I'm waiting and I'm like, that kind of sounded like my name, but it wasn't. And the teacher was saying, Murray Allen.
Oh.
And she was like, Murray Allen. And I was like, yep, that's not me. So I'm like waiting. And then at the end of the class, I was like, I just wanted to check in. You didn't say my name. And she's like, well, honey, who are you? And I was like, I'm Mary Ellen Grant. And she was like, honey, I've been calling your name Murray Ellen Grant. And I was like, oh, Murray Allen? That's like a boy's name. So like I told my parents when I got home that. And to this day, every once in a while, my dad will call me Murray Allen. I'm like, that's awesome. Because like as a kid, you don't understand like the accents and stuff.
Yeah.
Because even when you were overseas, you were on an American base, and
Yeah.
so everybody
Spoke.
spoke English, and I mean, like, you know, like kind of like common American,
Yeah.
you know, accent.
It wasn't
what
like
you see on
regional
TV.
dialect.
Right.
Yeah.
To
Totally.
me, it's interesting because growing up in California, and then like I watch movies and I see the people with Southern drawls and all that stuff, and it's not until I went to basic training when I joined the Army. Like,
Oh man.
and I was in
Love it.
Virginia, and then
Lots of
South
accents.
Carolina, and then like I started running into people who with Southern draws, and I was just like, kind of beside myself. I'd be like, wow,
You didn't know it was
It's
real?
I've
really
never,
talk
I've
like
never heard of
that.
it before, so I was just amazed, and I mean, and I was just like, wow, that's like cool, just like in the movies.
That's funny.
And then the most extreme was I met a guy who was from Louisiana who also had a speech impediment.
Wow.
So imagine how hard it was to understand that guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're just like, okay.
Yeah, at first, like,
Yeah.
it took me a while, but like I hung out with him all the time, and then eventually, like, I learned how to understand him, and like the people would be like, "What did he say?" And I'd end up having to translate.
Oh, you were his translator.
Yeah,
That's so nice.
I felt bad.
Have you gone to Mardi Gras? I mean, there's some thick.
Yeah,
accents.
that's one accent. Like I can do a lot of accents, but that Cajun, like
that bayou.
that
accent.
bayou,
Yeah.
oh, we going down by the water, boy. Like that is like so. That French Creole, I don't even know how they be
Going back
doing
into
it,
Adam
boy.
Sandler's.
That accent is really hard, and maybe like the South African. Like I don't hear it enough.
Yeah,
To-
South African.
South Africa.
South African.
South Africa.
Yes.
South African accent. I
think,
don't
like,
hear it enough.
Yeah, you would have to like watch. What was that movie?
Blood Diamonds.
No. Neil Blomkamp's movie. It was a sci-fi. Was to District 9? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's because those
like
are South
the bugs or
Africans,
something. Yeah,
and
that's
like
true.
the accents there are legit.
Yeah.
Like going back to accents, like how were you always fascinated with accents, and how did you translate that into deciding like I think there's a market for YouTube or to be make this into a YouTube show?
Well, I grew up bilingual.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom is from Pampanga. I grew up speaking in my Apu, which is like Lola in our dialect. So my Apu would like live with all the grandkids, so she only spoke Kapampangan. So I had to speak it to talk to her. Maybe until I was actually when I moved to the States was when I stopped speaking. But I think growing up bilingual, it tunes your ear to mimic sounds. And I remember like my mom teaching me phrases, or I would ask my mom like, how do you say whatever? And like I would say, how do I say I'm hungry? And in Kapampangan, it's, or are you hungry? She would be like, bisaka mangan. So I would be like, bisaka mangan, and she'd be like, no, bisaka mangan. Like she would make me like really imitate enunciate, so that like when you reel it back, it's like the proper pronunciation, and I appreciate that. So I think just carrying that over, like having that ear, it tunes you to like hear accents, so I can like hear stuff, and if I hear it enough, I can spit it back out.
Yeah.
And
so
as a kid, like it's way easier as a child
Yeah.
if you're growing up around that. Especially like growing up in Turkey and then, the Philippines, and then coming to the States.
Yeah.
When,
And you have to,
early
like, as a kid,
elementary.
they're adaptable. Kids are like resilient and they adapt to their surroundings.
So did you have an accent when you came to the States?
But I don't know. Maybe. Probably.
Was it Filipino or a Turkish accent?
I don't even know what a Turkish accent is. But I was like 2.5, 3 when I left Turkey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, yeah, no.
I mean, she
I
could
don't think
probably
I
barely
was,
like,
she could
Philippines,
barely
though.
speak. at the time.
Maybe from the Philippines. I don't even know. It's funny because, like, as kids, you think you're just like everyone else, and not until middle school, which middle school is like horrible.
That's like you're thrown into the trenches, and either you sink or you
Yeah.
swim.
Like kids
you,
can be so mean. That's when you're like your nose
I was kind of a bully.
grows.
Sorry.
She was the mean. Actually, I did
You
turn
were the
into a
bully, you said?
I had a lot of power back then.
Oh,
I don't
man.
know about now.
I was like, I think still.
I was breakdancing back
She's
then, guys.
the mean girl.
I was in my
The mean
Adidas tracksuit.
Yeah, middle school was like, it was horrible, you know? So I remember like finally my mom let me have, you know, friends over at the house, and we had a basement. So that's where the slumber party would be. And I'm thinking, yay, I'm going to prove to the girls that I'm fun too. And, you know, as soon as they come in, like, I don't know, I thought we had fun, right? But then the next day at school, I like walk onto the table and everybody's talking about, and they're like, oh my God, Mary's house stinks.
Oh,
That's so mean.
What does that even mean? And they're like, it stinks. It smells like fish. And I was like, yeah, probably. Like, I don't think it stinks. You know, you're used to it. Yeah. And then I remember them saying like, and your mom talks funny. And I was like, you know, you don't really think of your mom having an accent. I never thought my mom had an accent, but like that was the first time when I was like, oh, weird. I guess I'm different. Am I different?
Realize,
Yeah.
Dude, that's so true. Because if you're born and raised in California, that's all you know. It's oh my God. When you're not raised in California, like it's completely. I was one of 3 Filipinos in my class.
I believe it.
Yeah, and like they like would mix us up, and one was a boy. I was like, come on, guys. And,
well, it was your tracksuit, to be fair.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in California. I grew up in San Francisco, and I hear these stories, and then I do, because I when I first immigrated here, we moved to Fremont, and back then it was pretty much like, it's not the Fremont it is now. Like, it was predominantly white, and even then, like the Filipino Americans I met there who were born here, some of them were kind of ashamed of like having to be with an immigrant, like, because I was a fob in a sense, and I think having me hang out with them, you know, made them self-conscious about their identity in itself. I feel like there was some stuff to get into it, but then I moved to San Francisco, and then everyone was diverse there. You know, I had, you know, Chinese kids, black kids, Hispanic kids, and I do appreciate like growing up in San Francisco in that sense where I saw color and we understood each other's color and, you know, the heritage, and it didn't become an issue to be like, oh, your accent's weird or your house smells different, because everyone's house smelled different.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know?
That's
I
cool.
didn't have that.
I didn't have that. I mean, I wish I did. And I think the people that like grew up here, that they're so lucky to have that. But now that I am here, like I do feel so lucky to like be a part of this community, and you know, where we all have something relatable kind of like that, you know.
Yeah, and on a side note, what's funny is thinking that like those very same kids that told you like your house smelled funny or whatever, like, are probably the same kids like hanging out now, going to like, you know, thinking they're cool because they're going to these ethnic restaurants and they're like so adventurous now.
That's probably true.
Actually, those people, they're still in that same little hometown, like married with like 5 children. Like they all didn't leave. So, and it's funny because there was like a talent show. And I did hula dancing, you know, on base. My mom put me in hula and stuff, and we did tinikling and everything. So for the talent show, I did pearly shells.
Oh.
I blew everyone out of the water, and of course I got first place. And then after that, everybody wanted to be my friend.
There you go.
And I was like,
man.
my house stinks, so no, you can't come over. You know?
You can't have some milkfish. Grilled, because for all of you who don't know, grilled milkfish, or is bangus, right?
Oh yeah.
Is delicious. Grilled with some rice and some vinegar
And
garlic vinegar, or like calamansi and soy sauce. The best, like, especially the fat. You know, you get to that middle part.
Ooh, I don't like that.
You don't like?
No.
I don't do it. I don't eat fish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, what's funny is like, and then kind of a tangent, but like, I find it funny when people don't eat the skin of the milkfish. Like, I love it.
I like the skin.
Oh, is that like fried chicken when some people don't eat the skin of the fried chicken? And I'm like,
I think for fish, it's more
For
of like
fish, it's the
acquired texture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that crispy?
I mean, it's crispy. It's just
It just
like,
feels different in their tongue or their mouth for some
yeah,
reason.
it's not like fried chicken, where like fried chicken is like freaking delicious.
It's just the fat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'll admit, I'm one of those guys who don't eat the skin of the fried
So
chicken.
do you eat
do you-
balut?
I have eaten balut.
But it's not like, oh, let me go to the store and get balut
Do you
today.
eat the fish head?
Yes.
Oh, that
I eat
guy.
the shrimp
Oh.
head too.
Oh God. Oh no.
What does that mean?
Like, you know the
It's
shrimp,
code.
like the head of the shrimp, like the part that you rip off, and then like when you take the
Yeah.
shell off, like.
But isn't it like a shell?
that
It's a
head
shell.
Yeah.
part?
Well, there's juice in there.
Well, you could
he's
suck
the-
it, but do you
No,
like,
he's
I
the
eat
guy
it.
who like eats
I'll
the,
eat
whole
the whole
shell
head.
and weird.
why?
It is because it's delicious. Try like especially like my favorite is like in Chinese like Chinese food, like the salt and pepper shrimp.
Oh, because it's got like a coating on it or something.
Well, it's kind of breading, but it's deep fried, so it just breaks apart in your mouth when it's cooked
I don't
well.
know about
like,
you. I don't know about you, Talons.
Yeah.
So are you the kind of person that also like eats like watermelon seeds, but you eat the like outside or sunflower
Ow.
seeds? No. I didn't know if it was like you just are like
no,
I'm
no.
down for the shells.
No.
Hands down. Okay. I just didn't know.
I do not eat. Funny, I used to, like I just to me is like watermelon or watermelon seeds is like butong pakwan.
Oh yeah.
It's just so much effort for what you
It's a
get
lot
out
of
of
work.
it. Just like eating chicken, I have eaten chicken's feet, and it's just I don't just because it's so much effort
I like frog
for
legs.
what you get.
I like frog legs.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't. It's cool.
It just has to be like super like fried. Because if it's not, then it's like a little.
Chewy or something.
It's like super chewy. Yeah.
Like we should just have a
pretty
food blog
random.
right now. Like,
Like so what else do you eat?
And then going back into like you're getting to short films and like you recently did a film with Fil-Am Creative.
I did. I've done a few. Yes. Okay. So let's see. So I've been doing my kind of social media adventure on my own. It's about 2.5 years. I had posted a Disney parody of like The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
It had like 3 million views. It went viral. And it's so funny because as I recorded, I was like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. Like, people are going to think I'm insane. But like, apparently I'm insane in a good way because people liked it. And when that video came out, Meriden Villanueva, she's like the president of Fil-Am Creative. She reached out to me. She commented, and it said, you know, a lot of people will comment or a lot of people will message and say, oh, I want to meet you, or I wish we were friends. But her message was so like targeted, and she said, I must meet with you. And I was like, wow, okay, why? So I looked at her page, and it was like president of Fil-Am Creative, and that's when I was like, Fil-Am Creative, what is that? And then, you know, as soon as I said, sure, let's meet. And she like gave me a rundown. Oh, we do films. We just did a film festival. I think that was the one that you guys had done in like May.
Yeah, the LA Asian.
Yes. And I was like, wow, this is cool. This is a good community. Like, I didn't even know it existed. And I had been on G Tanji's show, Kababayan Today. I'd been on like twice. And the first time when I went on the show, I had just moved to LA. And G was like, you really need to get connected and plugged in to the Filipino community here. You just need to like reach out and find and be a part of that. And I was like, okay, cool. But I didn't know anything. So when Meriden, you know, I talked to her, she was like, you inspired me with a Disney character. I want to write this film. I want you to be involved. And I was like, hold on, let me check my schedule. Yes, okay. I was like, I think I can work that out. Yeah, let's do it. And so just like, I had done background before, but like being in front of the camera with, you know, having lines and seeing the whole production.
Mary was phenomenal.
Oh,
I was on set. Oh my
she
goodness.
was. That's right. So
She was phenomenal.
yes,
You were such a
you
pro.
helped me out with the coconut. Thank you. Yes. And it's so funny because you know how they say like fake it until you make it. Like I had never really been behind the camera in that aspect, but I was kind of like absorbing it all in. And at the end, they were like, okay, Mary Grant the Filipina, it's a wrap. And I was like, oh, thanks. That was my first set. And I remember everybody was like, wait, what? Oh, wow. So just like being a part of that film. And then, which brought me to another film that was directed by Arlyn.
Oh,
She
snap.
directed. Our Charles Gray was on board as well.
Hey, Charles.
Hey.
Oh my God, he's smiling at us. Oh my God, what do we do?
And that film was, I had a bigger role. So with Coconut Chick, it was like, you know, one scene. But with Baby on the Way, which stay tuned, look out for that.
Yes.
I had a much more bigger role that I was really excited to like challenge myself with. And, you know, that went great. And they say, you catch that bug, and it's true, And so going from doing my cell phone videos and my Snapchat filters, just being on these two sets, it really made me want to step up my game. And being a part of Fil-Am Creative, I never had an avenue of tools, of people that were so willing to, I just asked, hey, Arlene, what do we need to do? And she's like, I'll make it happen.
We do this. What day? Okay, on this day.
Yeah. It's like, okay, what about cast, crew? And it's like we use the network because that's what it's there for, and to have such talented people willing to, we all, Filipinos, we all kind of try and help each other out. Like we try and stick together, and, Filipinos are really known for, giving their shirt off their back if they can. So it's like really nice to be plugged into this like community. So yeah.
And I feel like we're starting to see a lot more, YouTubers kind of crossing over into more television, more films. And so, I mean, it's so different. It's got to be so different to, like you said, like using your own cell phone and like making your own content to collaborating with an entire team.
Yeah.
How has that process been for you? Like, how has that transition been for you?
Well, definitely, meeting people in the group, it's given me a little bit more confidence to ask for help or to ask, hey, what do you think about this? Like you said, the transition of being like social media person, at first it's very, you're like self-conscious, people are going to take me seriously, because I do have like actor friends that have, they've totally not thinking about that I'm like social media, where they've like ranted saying, I lost this role to somebody else because they have this many followers. And I'm thinking like, what's wrong with that? Like, I mean, it's like, you gotta have that many followers.
You have
for a
real
reason.
followers.
Like, you have to, they're not like robots.
It wasn't, it wasn't the farms.
It wasn't my cousin and their business in the Philippines.
And like princes in other countries. Yeah.
It's like, Kuyang, follow me, please.
So like making that transition, it feels comforting to have like a team involved, which I'm thankful that you are a part of.
Yes.
Arlene's a part of it. And we do have a couple of projects coming up. So, especially like with this network, it's basically like what you make of it. You're going to go as far as you want to go. And people will be there for you. Of course, there's, a couple people that, they could be negative, but that's in any situation. But it's a matter of like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? So.
Yeah, and I think we covered that in like the past episodes about people who are like, I want to do this, and then like, but right off the bat, they're like coming up to you either asking you for a straight job, or like you don't know where they've been, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to work on your passion project, or I only work for this amount of money.
Yeah,
it's like, wait, what network show have you been on? No, what? No.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's, I understand people, you don't want to be taken advantage of, but at the same time, it's like, you have to help and build the community. And even today, like one of my favorite stories is like with African-American filmmakers and like the audience members, like one of my friends were telling me like, when a black film comes out, like, or like produced a film by black directors or actors and stuff like that, like we'll go and watch it or support it. I'll even buy 2 tickets to support it. Which, I mean, it's really relevant right now with Black Panther, like how it's the box office and just the support and the success of that movie has, aside from just the black community supporting it, it's just all the communities, like Filipinos, Asian Americans, white Americans, and
it's like a mainstream.
It's a mainstream, and everyone, but everyone's supporting it because it was a great cast and great show and script to begin with, and Coogler is like, of course he's a Bay Area native, so I gotta throw love that way, he's from Oakland, and it's just great, just to see the diversity, and I'm glad that you're making something out of
I'm
being
trying
with
to make
Fil-Am
my
Creative.
path.
Yes.
And I've done like the short films, and then Arlene and I were, and Charles as well, we're producing,
Commercials.
maybe like a commercial soon on TFC.
Yes.
So
Oh,
stay
dang.
tuned for that. For like Phil Stop, which is a website, online grocery store. So with doing that, and then also I'm writing my very first feature film.
What?
Which first of all, I didn't know I was a writer, but then second of all, I have the opportunity to, and our Cassandra Pimentel, she's going to direct it. She wanted to
sweet.
direct for me. It was a short that turned into let's make a feature, and it's kind of not like saying kind of like Black Panther, but we want it to be a film that is kind of for like the Fil-Am community.
Well, if you need a leading man.
Walter's saying he knows some people.
We'll be casting
just
soon.
saying.
Yes. We want to have like an all-star Filipino American
Blue
cast.
Diamond Phillips.
And we want to maybe give you the dad. Yes. Do you know him? Like,
I mean,
I think we know some
okay.
people.
actually,
we know some
Ooh,
people.
yeah, we
yes,
know
yes.
people's.
We know some
I mean,
people, yeah.
to be honest, like the Asian American community in the film industry is all. I think we're like 3 degrees of separation
We're
or
like a
something
2A
like
high school.
that. Yeah.
Everyone knows each
knows.
other. We've like either
That's
gone
true.
to church, played the sports, or someone dated someone,
That's
someone.
true,
You
yes.
know?
Yeah, it
We're
is
all
weird.
in
Like
It's like,
I
we
asked
went to
around.
church together. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, what? Really? You know him? Like, and I'm like, wow, I'm that many degrees just separation from whatever.
Yeah, it's cool because being a part of this group, I learned like how small, like once you're in the community, like how small it really is. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like when they did Coconut Chick at We Own the 8th, and like Dante Bosco, and of course you grow up watching Dante Bosco and AJ Raphael, and like they were like cracking up, like and they both came up to me after and they were like, oh, you did so good, and AJ like waved at me and I was like, like, is he waving at me? And he literally went, Mary, hi, and I was like, hey, what's up? It's cool.
Yeah, right. Mary was like this, like.
I know he probably was like, did she just turn her back on me? Because I really thought in my head, like, oh, wait, there's no way he's like waving at me. But then, like, everybody's like, oh, it's AJ and Dante. It's like nothing. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
Mary's like groupies.
I mean, that's Rufio, guys. That's Rufio.
right? Rufio. Yes.
Which I really hope they do that Rufio. I think they were talking about making it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
tangent,
yeah.
but like a Rufio short film or
I
something
saw
like
that.
that.
Yeah. I
Already
want to say
Did they finish it?
asked for funding.
That was last year.
Did they release
but
it though?
I don't think it's been released.
I don't think so.
I really want to see that.
Sorry, Dante. I don't know.
Sorry,
the
I
details,
really-
but
if
I
it
know
hasn't
that
come
was
out-
filmed last
But
year.
you can call me and let me know, and then we'll go for drinks and hang out, and
Yeah.
I'll tell them,
Or let us know when the premiere is.
I'm her
and,
publicist, by the way.
And then with that, like, what do you have? What do you have in store for the future? I mean, what's your goal in like a few years? Like,
Oh man, I don't even know.
it's like a job interview. Like, what's your goal for 5 years?
I've slowly, I did my social media on my own. Now I'm involved. I did a couple short films. Now I'm working on my first feature. We're doing commercials. So I also do like the producing side.
Okay.
I would love if I could one day like get on a network show or produce my own show. Like in a perfect world, I have my own version of Saturday Night Live with like a cast of characters that I draw from, but it's like mostly like really a diverse cast. That's more like grassroots, homegrown versus like SNL, which is amazing, but it's also like very, corporate and manufactured, but something along those lines.
I mean,
don't know. It's
I
Just
think-
make it happen, Mary.
That's
I mean, I think with
I
the
just like to
talent-
entertain. That's my passion. is
With the talent
entertaining.
we have in Fil-Am Creative, I feel like that's something we can even do now. Like,
Yeah.
like, living color version. The Filipino
50
version.
Shades of Brown.
Well, we do have gray.
Charles
Ooh,
Gray.
Mr. Gray.
Charles Gray is our heartthrob.
Yes.
Just Google him, guys. Just
I'm
Google
sure that's like when that movie probably came out. He's just like, oh my god, he probably heard
Yeah,
that.
he probably
constantly.
loved it. He's probably like, I'm the Pinoy boy version.
Let me show you my pleasure room.
Ay, nako.
And it's like
my
all,
goodness.
it's all camera, light gear, and it's film equipment. Here's my dolly.
Oh my god! No, but
He's
Charles
not denying
is a
it.
great director, and I'm so happy. Like Charles, he directed also a parody music video that I did that'll be coming out, and I asked him to direct my TFC commercial that we're producing.
Yes.
So Arlene is so nice enough to let me use her face. So she's going to be my lead in the TFC commercial, and then Charles is going to direct. And I just learned recently that his father directed a TFC commercial as well. So
He was in one.
oh, he was in one. Was it just kidding? He was in one. But Charles is directing one.
I had gotten
so-
that same memo. I thought your dad, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he directed it too.
Yeah.
You're like upping him then.
I heard his dad was a Medal of Honor recipient too in World War II,
I mean, that fool took bullets.
and
you know?
and I heard that he was a private in World War One.
Oh, that's interesting.
Who
Who are
kidding,
your
guys.
I was
sources?
like, I don't know math, but I feel like that's not true.
Math schmat.
Math is a universal language, guys.
Yes.
Although I need to learn the new math
Common Core math.
that was supposedly the old math before, because what we learned was new math. Did you guys know that?
And I
No,
did
what
not
we
know
learned
that.
is math. It's just-
It's math.
And then that's what I think Ed was telling me that.
Common Core math you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, one of our founders of Fil-Am Creative is a teacher, and he teaches this new core math. But he told me it was like the old version.
Yeah.
Like I guess what our parents learned, maybe before that. I don't know.
Back
I don't know.
in the 80s.
Hey, I learned math,
You're not that young.
math in the
I am
80s.
50 years old.
That's right. Asian don't raisin. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, you helped me on a lyric on a
Oh,
verse.
yeah.
That's right.
I'm glad I can help. And just real quick before we start wrapping this, one of the quick questions: what's your comedic influence? Like, who are your inspirations for comedy?
Oh man, Robin Williams.
Yes.
He is hands down my the energy that he always had, and the characters. Like I love character work. Accents, impressions, like his stand-up comedy, he gave 120%, and he was just like a mad genius. And sometimes I feel like a mad person. I don't know if I'm really genius, but I really look up to him in that sense of that type of comedy because he does the character work. Yeah.
He was such an amazing, nice, humble man. I got a chance to meet him when he visited Walter Reed Army Medical Center when I was stationed out in D.C.
Oh, wow,
And he
nice.
was so kind. And even this little kid who is way too young to know what Mrs. Doubtfire was came up to him and was like, oh, Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm like, oh my God, how do you know that?
Wow,
Like
yeah.
he was just so kind, and he actually took the time to just talk to me for like 15 minutes.
Wow, that's cool.
And I was
yeah.
like, oh, I have patience, but we can, chat.
Like they can just die or something. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
No, I
Yeah, but
I
he
love
was
that
really
'cause
cool.
He's a San Francisco native, and
Oh, word, I didn't even know
yeah.
that.
And I didn't know that his wife was Filipino, and like his daughter's half Filipino. Like,
How do I not know this?
Oh, really?
I'm like the biggest fan, and I don't even know this.
And he toured around with the USO a lot too. I mean,
yeah.
he always visited
Yeah.
soldiers in the States and overseas.
And overseas.
Yeah.
So he was a really good supporter of a big supporter of the troops and the service members. So yeah, he's a great guy, and like I said, I love the guy just for the fact that he's a San Francisco native, and and being coming from San Francisco,
That
we're all
Bay
like,
Area,
it's that Bay Area pride,
heart
man.
right there. Always,
Bay
always.
Area people. Just kidding.
And again, I just want to say thank you very much for coming and joining us here
Absolutely.
at Voices.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
Voices. Charles, do you hear me?
Also known as Voices.
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 We did. That was an alternative. We shopped out there. Voices. Again, Mary Grant is joining us here at Fil-Am Creative Podcast Voices. Mary Grant is a entertainer, filmmaker, actress.
Superstar.
She's also known as Mary the Filipina.
That's right. All of
And
the above.
keep an eye out for her future projects and throw out any of your social media.
Yeah,
Let's
where
hear-
can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Mary Grant TV, Facebook, Mary Grant TV. Pretty much if you just Google Mary Grant, there is a designer, but just skip over that one. But Mary Grant or Mary Grant TV or Mary Grant the Filipina, just find me. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm everywhere. No, no.
Awesome. Again, thank you for coming. You were wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very inspiring, and I hope you guys got something out of it. I'm Walter Talents, aka Man of Tales on Instagram.
And I'm Arlene Della Pena at Arlene_Della Pena.
And this is Fil-Am Creative's podcast, Voices.
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 Today's episode brought to you by the good folks at Filipino Worker Center. From the heart of historic Filipino town, PWC focuses on providing programs that help meet the immediate needs of workers and their families while at the same time building their leadership to take collective action for long-lasting change. Our thanks to PWC for letting us shoot at their wonderful facility. Big thanks to all the cast and crew that made this episode possible. Charles Gray, producer, sound and cam op. Winston Fernando, producer and director of photography. Sarnika Lim, production coordinator. Ken Chan, cam op and DIT. Homer Dulu, BTS shots and camera op. Walter Talents, producer and host. Arlene De La Pena, producer and host. Rodney Curudo, director and showrunner. Also, a big thank you to Fil-Am Creative for allowing us this platform. Stay tuned next week for a new episode of Fil-Am Creative's Voices. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like us on Facebook. Thanks!